Hello, Laura. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jen. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, and I'm even more fantastic because we're here talking about your book today.
Thank
So
God. I
exciting.
couldn't be happier. This
Oh,
day was on my calendar, looking forward to it for so long. And now it's here.
yeah. How long? Like, if you go back in time, how long do you think it felt before you would get to this place of being
Okay.
on the other side?
Well, I was just, we're in Chicago based there. As you know, we were just in Denver this past weekend. I think the last time I was in Denver was about a year and a couple months ago. Uh, NGLCC, for those of you playing along, acronyms, National Gay and Lesbian Chamber. We met for
Mhm.
in real life. We'd connected previously, but that sort of started the clock for me. Not to put all this on you, Jen, but I do blame you for most of this, in a good way. But it was let's call it 14 or 15 months, where okay, I knew this. It's like the inevitable thing that's going to happen. We're going to do this work, we're going to do this project. This book is going to get launched.
Mhm.
How quickly can we do this? And going quickly but not rushing,
Mhm.
moving efficiently but not sacrificing the importance of being high touch and really intentional about the work. But it was a long year, I would say, but it was, now that we're here, it feels like wow, it's a lot to do in a year, and it feels really, I feel very proud of it. So
Yeah, it is
yeah.
kind of wild to think. Like, in one vein, it's like, wow, that was like less than a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And then the other time you're like, "Wow, that was a year and a half ago." Like, it's this weird
Yeah.
distortion of time.
Yes, like the Twilight Zone. It's
Mm,
exactly
yeah,
that, but
yeah.
exactly.
Well, the exciting thing is that you got here, right? Like, that is
Yes.
the ultimate, like, "Oh my god, we did it." Like, we are here, you are, just doing, at least the time of our recording right now, having just did the fulfillment of all of your pre-orders,
Yep.
which was amazing. So, let's just back up for a second. Your book is called Leadership Types. It
Yes.
is a barrier-breaking approach to transform the leadership landscape. So, can we start with, you know, who you are, like, what you do, but, like, why this book? Like, kinda start
Yes.
there.
Yeah. So I am a couple of things in my life. I'm the founder of a company called Breakthrough Brands. I'm the wife of Lindsay Gaskins, who we'll talk about Lindsay, the mother of three amazing daughters, and now I can say I'm the author of this book, which is never. I was very reluctant to even say I'm an author, but you also helped coach me to be able to say that confidently. My background is in psychology. My background is in branding and marketing. I picked up my MBA here in Chicago a few years back and really honed really into that craft and that the science and the art of brand management. I spent about 17 years climbing the corporate ladder. So anyone who out there who is either in corporate roles or
Yeah.
recovering from corporate roles, really, learning how to manage, how to lead, getting leadership development, no shortage of that, and managing teams and kind of rising up to senior executive level. In 2019, I took the leap of faith, entrepreneurial leap, and started a company, started Breakthrough with this hypothesis that I could apply what I knew about psychology, what I knew about branding and marketing, what I experienced as a leader, both being developed and developing others, and bring that together into an approach that really could help transform diversity in leadership. Frankly, I was often the only female at the leadership table, often the only LGBTQ community member at that leadership table. And as I rose up in the ranks, so to speak, the pressures and the ceiling became very real. So I thought about ways I could help address that, for myself and for other people, and really empower others to lead, and specifically underrepresented leaders. And 5 years later, here we are. The business is growing. We have a team of six. Lindsay, my wife, is our CEO. And this book is really in service of our mission to advance equity in leadership. And I'm so proud of it. And what a team effort. That's the whole thing. Yes, my name is on it, but it's really reflective of a team process, a team approach, all the great clients we've had the chance to work with through the years, sort of translating all that experience and history in psychology, all those good things into this book, feels very powerful and hopefully empowering for others.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love it's so interesting to see that, like you just said, it's your name on the cover, but yet it is a whole team effort behind the scenes. And so obviously you had a number of different people, Lindsay being, the key other person kind of
Yep.
behind this with you and getting this done. Was there ever a conversation to decide which of your names would be the author, or if you ever would have been co-authors?
Very good question. And I think we probably dragged you into a few of those loving debates of like, what should we do? Really just trying to do the best thing, for the business and for the audience. And we definitely went, it was like a tennis match, like back and forth, like we should both be on it. You should be on it. I should be on it. In the end, we sort of netted out with one kind of singular voice for the book. Because I find sometimes when I'm a reader, it gets a little bit confusing switching the microphone between two co-authors. And so for that singularity of kind of in the thread of thought through the book and the messaging and sort of the tone of voice, we thought that was going to be important. And I think the other piece that sort of tipped the scales, if you will, in the debate was around the emphasis on the psychology behind the model that is sort of the centerpiece of the book. So the spectrum of leadership empowerment, the SLE for shorthand because it's way too many syllables. The SLE is really rooted in a lot of the research and the studies and sort of the experience I have in psychology, and that was an important feature that we wanted to make sure that we had good perspective on, had good insights into, and that was ultimately what helped sort of lead to that choice.
Okay, I love so many things. So the motivational psychology that you're kind of like bringing to the table, because like right now we're having this conversation. If someone doesn't know, isn't familiar with your work, they might not know like the how in which you're talking about leadership types. So kind of like
Yep.
setting the stage in two ways. One, we're talking about organizations. And
Yep.
two, you're bringing in this kind of motivational psychology component to this. So can we,
Sure.
in whatever way is easiest for you, to kind of start to break down, because you also have an assessment, which I
Yes.
think your assessment is such a powerful and magical tool,
Yep.
and they go hand in hand. It's kind of like the yin and the yang to like the book and the assessment. So where does it make sense to kind of break it down for someone who's watching
Yeah.
this, like, huh, I really think I need to get a copy of this book that they're talking about?
Yeah. No, that's great. And I'll kind of try to simplify the journey, if you will, like the consumer journey or the reader's journey, and ultimately the participant's journey in the work. So the hypothesis that we have and the premise that we take with the book is really around this idea that everyone has the capacity to lead. It's not just something reserved for folks who fit a certain mold of historical leadership. So historically, at least in the United States, that mold of leadership has been set by white cisgender males that look, act, behave, sound in a certain way. Statistically, there's many organizations are still led in that way, and that we have it's not a bad thing, but there's an opportunity for more new faces, more new voices, more new experience and perspectives at the table. So what we're trying to do with the book and with our work is really identify and elicit and draw out that leadership potential that exists within all of us. And so how do we do that? We do not have a magic wand, right? We do not have special glasses where you can see this talent and draw it out, but we want to make sure that we have a tool that helps folks assess for themselves, what kind of leader they are, and then an assessment that also can be used to understand the leaders at the table or in the organization around you. So creating a way to understand who you are as a leader, who's on your team or within your organization, what leadership they bring, and just kind of broadening the spectrum of possibilities of who might be a good one to select for that next level promotion, who might be equipped to lead a team, and sort of understanding those assets better. So the assets within ourselves and the assets within our teams. The leadership types assessment, that's sort of the beginning and the end of any journey or product or project, I should say, that we work through with teams. And it really, at the first intersection with leadership types, is about understanding what motivates you really at your core as a leader. So the first pass for folks is typically this 15 question, click through quiz, like any personality quiz, right? It's harmless, but it gives you kind of a directional sense of where you might be charting. When we do a project with a company, we'll do a much deeper dive into that assessment through a 60-minute motivational interview. So we get pretty deep with that leader. We'll take in their LinkedIn, we'll take in their resume, we'll spend that hour with them and really kind of unpack across that spectrum where they may be charting. So, some person, I may be a connector, Jen, you may be a guide, Chris on our team, he's going to be a catalyst, and we sort of kind of have some common language. We understand, what is motivating us better, and therefore how we can get the best out of one another. The leadership types, think about two things that are informing, what is going to predict your type. One is what is most intrinsically motivating to you. And that secondarily then maps to an archetype of leader that you represent. So we kind of use it to initially get to know the person, what's motivating you, and now to help you understand, okay, this is the archetype, the model or the type of style of leadership that you best embodied, you at your best could portray. And that's sort of the jumping off point for how you speak, act, show up, present for others within the team or organization. So it's this like internal, external exercise that happens both with the assessment and with the larger work that gets folks clear internally, so that then they can be clearer and more confident externally.
It's so interesting how you're framing it. And I love that you're saying it's like the start and end to kind of the spectrum, because it feels 360, right? Like once you've gone through it as an evolution, you can kind of like go through it again. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think what I really appreciate about it, because I did not have enough of this when I was sort of growing up in leadership roles or within corporate roles, is the dynamic nature of it. So the leader who I am today is very different than the leader I was 5 years ago, for sure, 10 years ago, definitely 20 years ago. But some of these leadership assessment tools or vehicles of the past are more of like you are what you are, and you're kind of set as a certain type, and you can't really change. And I love, assessments like, Strengths Finder or Myers-Briggs. But once I got pegged as an ENFP, for those MBTI nerds out there, maybe like me, that's kind of followed me in my career, and it limited some roles that I was maybe considered for. It was a great enabler because it indicated, I'm social, I'm good at influencing and persuading, great for sales, great for marketing, but maybe not quite great for general management, or maybe not going to be a CEO because you're to this, to that, not enough this. So the tool, not that it was weaponized, but like some tools can categorize us and box us in. Whereas the spectrum is really intended to be more fluid and dynamic with you, and more future focused, to say, okay, I'm in a manager role today. I want to be a director. What's going to be required of me in that next level position? And how do I start to communicate, relate, connect to others in that way that may be a different leadership type than I have been. But this hopefully is again some guardrails, some ways of thinking about how we're showing up for others in a way that can set us up for success for that future state.
That's really cool. So somebody could take it today and then get from point A to point B based on all of the data and the analysis that's collected and your team is helping with.
Yes.
But then maybe come back in 2 or 3 years, take it again and make it differently with the same spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not haphazard or chaotic or schizophrenic. Like you're different things at different times, but there's a definitely again the methodology to it, and the idea that we are changing and adapting. And it's not about, there's certain core aspects of us as humans that are very durable, that may never change, right? Our values, kind of those core beliefs, right? But the way we're showing up, we have to be flexible and most relevant to the context at hand, and to the audience at hand, and to the stakeholders at hand. And that's, as we're evolving in our careers, those dynamics are changing, the context is changing, and then you layer in macro forces of societal and political and environmental things that are changing, and we have to have that adaptability to be able to thrive and connect and be relevant, in the future, especially. So that's that idea of it being, portable with you, dynamic with you, and that idea of future focus or vision casting, a tool that helps us do that. There's a lot of power in that.
So I see that there's so many ways that this applies to a team, a community of people, the organization as a whole. It feels like there's different functions in which an organization might be bringing you in. Could one of those functions be, because you mentioned Myers-Briggs, and it's interesting, and not being weaponized, but also like being limiting, right? Like it kind of creates that box that you're then kind of being defined by. Is this something that could almost be like, I think of like when you're hiring somebody, a lot of times it's like taking a DISC assessment, right? To see kind of like where you land. Are you a high D, or whatever the case may be?
Yeah.
It feels like this could be something from a hiring standpoint for an organization to help bring in the right candidate for the right position. Does that feel like an accurate statement?
Yeah, I think like anything, it's one of many like data points, and one of many tools. And again, I don't think any of the other tools are nefarious or evil in any way, but making sure that we have a holistic understanding of, both personally and professionally, of who may be entering our team or organization, and kind of additionally, when we have an existing team, how are we optimizing? Are we getting the best out of the folks we have on that team, even before we bring in someone new, right? To make sure that we are, perfect world, we have 12 seats at this table. We have one person in every leadership type, right? That's not possible. But think about there's an aspect of the SLE that the way that the 12 leadership types flow they flow into 4 basic quadrants. If you kind of go close your eyes, imagine going clockwise, like top right, power to create. That's kind of to make the unimaginable, bring it into reality, sort of make it tangible. So that creation power to bring things into life. Bottom right, power to transform or change things. So not about making, but kind of shifting and that sort of catalyst sort of action. And then we have the power to bring folks together or to unite. And then lastly, the top left, there would be the power to create structure, create order. So people tend to fall in one of those 4 bigger categories of sort of our greatest power to lead. Imagine now, back to your question, if you have a team and your mandate is to innovate and sort of disrupt the market with something new, and you have nobody in that transformation quadrant, you may have not a blind spot. Now you can see the blind spot, but you have a space where, okay, we need to either shift some folks in either through roles or through coaching or through projects, right, so that they can get into that quadrant where they can sort of express that power. Or that might be a great way to say, hey, we need to go out the marketplace and find someone who's really going to be that sort of catalytic, disruptive person that we need, given the task at hand. So we can use it in that way to sort of guide team dynamics, org dynamics, hiring, and sort of team management decisions.
Okay, so as you're describing and explaining all of this, I'm fully following.
Yes.
And
Well,
yet
you better follow, because you are a bit, I'm always charting where people are on the spectrum.
I'm like, my mind is like, how on earth did you and Lindsay and the rest of the team like come up with this level of structure? Because I feel like it's not an intuitive thing, I don't think, for most people to say, hey, I'm going to put it into these quadrants that then break down into these 3 other options. And like, it just seems so in depth. And I know you have a background in psychology, so I assume a lot of it stems from that. But like, how did you just like the framework itself?
Yeah. So there's a couple, 2 or 3, I'll say 3 big influences. If I go back to, this is like way back to undergraduate at Harvard, kind of discovering psychology as like, this is going to be my major, my concentration, combined with I was a basketball player at Harvard, and there's a lot of team psychology. My coach there was basically a psychologist more than she was a coach, Kathy Delaney Smith. So kind of my bias, if you will, my background is really deep into team psychology, social psychology, leadership psychology, and then motivational psychology is a specific facet of that. There are like tons of great historical thinkers and researchers and folks who devoted their entire careers to practicing this type of psychology, or in psychotherapy and psychoanalytics. There are a couple of names who are like burned in my brain from those days. And one primary thinker who has influenced my thinking is Carl Jung. He was a Swiss psychoanalyst back in the early 1900s. He's like, a lot of this is informed by a dead old white man, but it is like, it's in my in my background in terms of study, and the desire to with all these things, right, of the past, like hold on to what is really powerful and sort of recast maybe what was maybe not as inclusive, or how do I say, less patriarchal maybe than some of the thinking was back then. So trying to update some of the thinking of someone like Carl Jung to say, okay, he believed in 4 primary human orientations, and they were similarly cast as what we've described as the powers within the spectrum, but they definitely left a lot of people out. Let's just say that. So to be very diplomatic here. And some of the methodologies maybe definitely left a lot of people out to come to that conclusion. So always the desire to say, what is motivating people? What is motivating human behavior? That's always been a question that I've been grappling with and curious about. And looking at a model like Carl Jung's, looking at a model like Maslow, which is like the hierarchy of human needs, food, water, shelter, self-actualization, all these things, and always kind of being intrigued by that. So kind of put that aside for a second. Motivational psychology, informed by the past, and a lot of great thinkers. And then flash forward into my career, I was fortunate to learn from a lot of the best marketers and brand thinkers in the world, especially when I was at a company called Mars, which is like big candy and pet food empire, privately held company. They are very big proponents of the study and the research and the psychology of brands. And when I was there, I got exposed to this model called brand archetypes. And brand archetypes are basically there's a great book called The Hero and the Outlaw, which I will give a shout out to. That it describes the way that archetypes are used in commercial branding and marketing to help products and companies connect with consumers. So I worked on a brand like Skittles. Everyone hopefully knows Skittles. I was part of that brand team. And the idea that Skittles is this outlaw brand. It's sort of like on the edge, and it's, think about the marketing and all the touch points of a brand like Skittles fall into this archetype of this outlaw. And what does that look like? And another brand within the Mars portfolio falls into the caregiver, and another falls into the everyman. There's this language, right? And that too, I kind of put that also through the filter of, okay, what does this mean for people? Could it apply to people? Could it apply to leaders? And could we also then look at and say, let's make that more innovative, more inclusive, less patriarchal, less dipped in the past, right? Let's kind of put that through that forward-thinking lens. And then the last piece is probably the most important, is actual like lived experiences with clients. So we had, if I look at our database of, now it's 300 or 400 these individual leaders who we've worked with, we've assessed. We kind of were already naturally doing this motivation / archetype exercise, and we said, are there patterns here? Can we look at the data? Can we say, what did we learn through now this historical database that we've developed, like kind of firsthand with these really high impact, high achieving leaders. And so that was kind of our proprietary piece to say, okay, how does this all fit together? And short of putting in a blender, and pouring it out, that's the thinking was sort of pulled apart. And I'll say strategically, it was not like it just emerged. We had to really work at it and make sure we designed it intentionally, but really at the end of the day, that it's useful, it's dynamic, it's, again, I'll say it again, innovative, inclusive, modern, that the language is there where people can kind of find themselves in it and then use it to take it into action, not just have it be like, oh, great, I'm motivated by structure. Okay, well, how does that help me lead for more impact? So trying to put it through the so what, who cares lens. And so that's how it came into being. And that process that took much longer than the past year. That's something we've been sort of cooking on for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I bet. You're just taking in so many different kind of modalities from different folks and like really synthesizing it to be relevant and modern and inclusive, which is such a cool way to do it. And like I said, it's just someone's like brain power to be able to even look at all of those different things and see where's the gap between how it worked then versus how it would work now. So I love that that's kind of the origin. What is the hope for your reader? Like as we're kind of like coming towards the end here, like what is someone's watching this and like, wow, I'm just really interested to bring this in for my own team, for myself, for whatever the case may be. Like, what is your hope that after someone kind of reads the book, that what action they might take or how they might view themselves differently, perhaps?
Yeah. So I will tell a quick, like just tiny vignette of a story that is the feeling I want to convey. So when I teach this topic as a college lecture, I've had the chance to do it a few times over the last few years, and I will ask kind of the same question to start the class. Imagine a group of about 50, 18 to 22-year-olds, and I'll say, okay, hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Quick question before we start, and they roll their eyes, and I said, raise your hand if you think that you're a leader. Let's pause, and then a couple hands will go up, probably the kids in the front, a couple in the back, maybe a third of the hands will go up. These are folks at a solid school. A lot of them are business students, right? And I said, okay, stop. Every single one of you, raise your hand. And I will not continue the lecture until all their hands are raised up, not halfway, but raised up all the way. And that feeling of like everyone has within them the capacity to lead. We have it. If you don't, what has made you have that limiting belief, or that it's imposter syndrome, where you've been told you're not a leader, or you don't see yourself in that way, or you don't look at around the world and see other folks who look like you are leading. That's a problem. That's the opportunity that we're really trying to address. That feeling that, hey, I have it in me. Here's a way to express it. I want that feeling for the reader, and I want folks who are in a position to manage and lead others, to look at others in that way, to say, okay, I'm looking at my team, I'm looking at my organization. I'm not just looking for a certain prototype of person that I can fit into what I think is the next leader. I'm going to look at these emerging leaders and this potential, and really going to help folks, draw it out of them, and make them raise their hand, right, and be in, leveling up their effectiveness as leaders, their authenticity as leaders, and their ability to lead and kind of enable organizations in that way.
Wow, that's amazing. So you have the book, you have the assessment, you
Yes.
have consulting, you are out speaking, you have the whole orbit of things that people can engage with you on.
Yes.
For someone who's like, I need one directive right now, what is that,
Yes.
the action for them to take?
Especially so for the easiest thing is go to, take the leadership types assessment. So leadershiptypes.com. That's the place to sort of start any journey with us. Take the assessment, obviously buy the book, ebook, hardcover, paperback, whatever you like. We have it all. And start to understand, get like access to the thinking, right? And does this resonate? And then I think depending on, again, your role, when we work with anywhere from, you could be a founder of a company to a head of HR for a large organization. We have solutions. We are primarily an organizational solution, but we do have access to, for folks out there looking to just improve their own leadership, authenticity and effectiveness. Great. But that leadershiptypes.com, that assessment quiz that's there is a great first place to start. The book is, and then if there's inquiry into, hey, how do I bring this into my company, as simple as a workshop or as fancy as a targeted advancement program or a more robust leadership development program, that's what we are designing and building every day for our clients. That's something where you would reach out to us directly through that site, and we could go from there.
That's amazing. And what is your leadership type?
Well, thank you for asking, Jen. I am a connector. And interestingly, this is food for thought. So you get assessed right through our process, and that's not meant to box us in, but it's meant to be a jumping off point. So the connector is diametrically opposed from the visionary, and the visionary is my stretch leadership type. It's something where it's my amplifier. It's a tension point for me. I've been a connector. I've been this basketball player mentality, collaborator, get along, make relationships. And as I'm stepping into this role as author, as speaker, as hopefully thought leader, that visionary type is like a stretch place for me. And I be very transparent about how do I start to act and think and behave in that way? What would that type of leader do? As a founder, as an author, that's so I'm a combo of connector and visionary.
That's really cool. And is it always the opposite is the stretch for that person?
Yes, we call it like the amplifier. So think about like a tension point, and maybe this is the next book about tension being a really good thing, but that tension point is what can be energizing. What can enable you to walk from point A to point B. You need tension in that tightrope, but it helps us unlock and uncover new possibilities.
Oh, that's so cool. And I wish I had looked at, because I took the assessment at some point while
you were a good student. Yeah, we got to dig up your chart. Yeah,
I know, and I didn't think to before we were talking. So now I'm gonna go back.
We can talk more anytime.
Yeah, it's fantastic because I think anyone who is in a role of whether they're self-identifying as leader, they're being chosen to lead, your whole point really is strong of like everyone has the ability to lead, everyone is a leader. And so having something like your assessment, I think, is powerful. Specifically, I love that that it morphs, that it is flexible and kind of grows with you and grows around you rather than something that is just so boxy, which I think is so much of what you were saying before about something that's more inclusive, right? Like to me, that's like inherently more inclusive.
Yes, exactly.
So good. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah. I'm happy. Thank you for all of your great leadership through this and your team, partnering with them to get. There's no way this could have gotten done without all those resources and brain power and heart and all that. So thank you, Jen, for what you do every day.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And obviously, I appreciate you. And
I was not paid to say that.
I know. Paid endorsement. I'll be sending the peaches check.
Exactly.
Thank you again. I really appreciate you. And for everyone watching, go check out leadershiptypes.com and check out all the awesome things that Laura, Lindsay, and the team are up to. And if you have any questions, you need to be connected and can't find them somehow, feel free to reach out to us and we will make sure that we make the connection for you. Beautiful. I will see you soon.
Okay. Bye, Jen. Thank you.